You're listening to Faith, Stewardship, and Insurance, Protecting Texas Churches. The show that gives pastors and church leaders the clarity they need to protect their people, property, and ministry.
Welcome back to Faith, Stewardship, and Insurance, Protecting Texas Churches. I'm your host, Ron Wadley with Insurance for Texans. We help church leaders to protect their people and property with wisdom and clarity. If you're a church leader and ever wondered if your church's insurance was really just an expensive scam, this episode is for you. Let me tell you about Marvin. Marvin has served on the leadership team of his Waco church for years. He's steady, thoughtful, and deeply committed to doing things the right way. The committee paid their church's insurance premiums faithfully, even as those premiums climbed year after year. Then a hailstorm rolled through Central Texas and tore up their roof. Marvin did what he was supposed to do. He filed the claim. He waited and waited. When the settlement finally came, it barely made a dent in the cost to repair the church's roof. That's when Marvin wondered whether or not church insurance was just a scam. If you've ever felt that frustration, you're not alone. And the answer isn't as simple as yes or no. What Marvin experienced is real, but it's not because insurance itself is fake. It's because many churches are carrying policies they don't fully understand in a market that has changed dramatically. Let's talk about why insurance feels like a scam to so many Texas churches right now. First, premiums keep going up, but claims don't feel fast or fair. Marvin's church had never filed a claim before, yet their premiums had increased year after year. When they finally needed help, the process felt slow and opaque. That happens because insurance pricing isn't just about your church. It's driven by statewide storm losses, inflation, labor costs, and how overwhelmed carriers are after major weather events. None of that excuses poor communication, but it does explain why claims today feel heavier and slower than they used to. This is where the right advocate matters. Churches don't just need a policy. They need someone who will explain what's happening, keep pressure on the process, and communicate clearly when things bog down. Second, coverage is often confusing and exclusions hide in plain sight. When Marvin finally reviewed the policy closely, he discovered something no one had explained to him. Once the roof passed a certain age, it was no longer covered at full replacement cost. That single detail changed the entire outcome of the claim. This is one of the most common reasons churches feel betrayed by insurance. They assume coverage stayed the same year after year, when in reality, terms quietly shifted. Roof schedules, depreciation, exclusions, and endorsements matter. And if no one is walking you through them, frustration is almost guaranteed. Insurance isn't a scam, but unclear insurance absolutely feels like one. Third, high deductibles can make coverage feel pointless. Marvin's roof repair estimate came in around $35,000. But with a percentage-based hail deductible, the church had to pay nearly all of it themselves before insurance kicked in. In Texas, high wind and hail deductibles are now standard. That doesn't mean churches are powerless. There are strategies like deductible buy-downs and smarter policy design that can help, but only if someone is actually helping you build coverage intentionally instead of selling you a generic product. Here's the truth. Texas church insurance isn't a scam, but buying insurance without understanding it is a gamble. When churches feel burned, it's usually because the policy was never aligned with the reality of their building, their ministry, or the Texas weather they live under every year. Marvin didn't need cheaper insurance. He needed better advocacy and a policy designed for his church, not a template. That's why we created the True Texas Church Insurance Program. Not to promise miracles, but to remove confusion, explain trade-offs honestly, and make sure churches know exactly what they're buying before the storm ever hits. If you're frustrated, confused, or quietly wondering whether your church insurance is actually doing anything for you, connect with one of our church insurance agents by going to insurancefortexans.com. And if you want a deeper framework for evaluating risk, coverage, and stewardship, I encourage you to read our book, The Promise of Certainty. It was written for church leaders who want clarity instead of guesswork. Get your copy by going to thepromiseofcertainty.com. I'm Ron Wadley, and this has been Faith Stewardship and Insurance, protecting Texas churches. Until next time, remember, church insurance should never feel like a scam. With the right guidance, it becomes a tool that protects the mission God has entrusted to your care.
Thanks for listening to Faith, Stewardship, and Insurance. Until next time, remember, insurance isn't just about policies. It's about safeguarding the mission God has called you to lead.